Welcome to Cape Connect. We have a series of businesses and organizations, people and possibilities. And I'm here with Carol Miller, and we're going to be talking about Cove Clubhouse. This is an important facility here in Harwichport. And Carol, I've got to tell you, I've been there several times, and I look at the people that come to the clubhouse, and they're stressed, and they're medicated, and your heart goes out, and yet you realize if the clubhouse weren't there, and they do many things besides just provide a place for them to come. We'll be hearing all about it, but they're trying to get them back into a more normal life. And we're very glad to be able to talk about it because it's something that very often on the Cape we have sympathetic hearts, but our eyes don't see what's going on.
Right, and we have as our guest today Jennifer DosSantos, and she is the program director of the Cove Clubhouse. So Jennifer, can you tell us about the people that come to your facility for help?
Well, all kinds of people come to us for help. We're community-based. We're a mental health recovery program. So everybody we see has a history of some sort of mental illness. But folks can be at any stage of their recovery. Some of the people, you know, as you said, come in and that they are stressed and they may be in the midst of a crisis. Some people are doing much better. Some people are doing well and stay involved because they want to come back and just be involved and give back and help other people to get further in their recovery also.
Yeah, and a couple of times that I've gone in the door, I've been welcomed by any number of people, and they try to find out why I'm there, what I came for, and once it was to bring a picture that you could hang on the wall, one of my art creations, which evidently stayed there for a few years until very recently when I wanted to get it back for an art show here on Channel 99's property. And yet I did feel that there was a need in some of the cases. And I did meet a very fine guy who comes over to our Channel 99 and does some things, and he remembered things that I'd done long ago. A very, very interesting chap that's been at the clubhouse.
He is. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of wonderful people come in there. And
you have a whole range of programs, and I think if anybody wanted to even begin to sample some of those programs, we'd like to hear all you can tell us, but it would be to go to your face page. And then just over the months, there are pictures and pictures and pictures of what happens and all the people making comments, and very positive, the community supporting you. And
it is. And before I came in here today, I was trying to write down some notes, and there were I wanted to mention everything that we did. And as I'm writing everything out and I'm looking at our schedule, I said, that's a lot of stuff. I know I'm going to forget something.
Go ahead.
Don't
go ahead and forget. Go ahead and tell us what you wanted to do.
So in terms of services, I know one is education that you focus on. You help people get back into school. They can get their GED. Can you tell us about how that works, like with the community college? And
we do. We just help folks out wherever they're at. We can help people with GED preparation. Get them involved with 4Cs. We work closely with their offices for people who have special needs. We can help people find financing for school, whether that's helping apply for financial aid, navigating that whole system. We work very closely with the Mass Rehab Commission, so we can often get funding for folks who want to go back to school, whether it's 4Cs or to learn a trade or a certificate program.
My understanding is that they can take one course in community college each semester, and it's
it varies. If somebody wants to take on more than that, and
they can,
that everyone agreed seems to think that they can handle it, absolutely.
Oh, how wonderful! So you really tailor it to the individual,
right?
Yeah,
we do our best, and then we do some training in-house too. We have a computer class, we do a cooking class. So stuff like that. So that's free. Then we don't need to go find funding.
Well, I got into your basement and it looked like there was some artwork being done down there.
Oh, Cove has outstanding art program, which I can't claim any credit for. I can barely draw stick people. But we have some amazing artists in there. And we do an art group every Wednesday. And we also, like you said, we have the whole studio in the basement, and we provide all the supplies for that. We've done a number of shows at the Cultural Center. The Chamber of Commerce, we did one last year, so we can help folks, try to get their art out and sell it.
Yeah.
So they sell their own art for them, and then they get the money. Is that it, or it goes?
They
into
do.
the
We do it
clubhouse?
any number of ways. If it's an art show and it's out in the community, then absolutely the artist can keep the money for it.
Wonderful.
Sometimes we do them in-house. We'll do an open house art show or have an art exhibit as a fundraiser, and then our members choose to donate their art to that. And generally what happens is we'll give them 60%, and the clubhouse will take 40, or however we agree on doing it. But
Now, how are meals handled? Because I do see people, they've got more than drinks on the table. What do they?
meals are important. That's one of the most important services we provide.
There you
Certainly
go.
one that gets the most people in the door, for sure. No, we do serve a big lunch every day. We provide that. It's $1.50 for lunch, so
Wow,
you
that's a
can't beat it.
bargain.
I know. It's another thing that we try to get the members involved in. Once a month we have a big meeting where we plan what does everybody want to eat, and if folks want to come in and somebody has a recipe that they want to try out, we'll go buy groceries.
Do you have any gluten-free people with celiac disease? Not currently, perhaps.
Luckily, for our sake, who have to do the grocery shopping, we don't. But if we did, we'd work around that.
With different allergies that they might have, yes.
Always mindful of allergies. Yeah, we
Sure.
can certainly,
Sure.
tailor a meal to what folks can eat and what they can't.
Yeah. And I do see people sometimes eating in groups, but other people eating separately in separate tables, and that's just as their choice.
It is their choice. I mean, it's a matter of what people are comfortable with, and you'll see folks who, when they're new to the clubhouse, I imagine it could be pretty overwhelming. I mean, just the first time I walked in, it was overwhelming to walk into a room where there's 10, 15, 20 people, and you don't know any of them, no matter what the circumstances. That's stressful for some people. But it's interesting to see that people will come in and they'll kind of sit by themselves, and they're quiet, and as time goes on and as more and more people start talking to them, you really see people start to blossom and come out of their shells,
But I
get
did
more
see
involved.
that your range of ages was 18 until they said 70 plus, and I guess plus is plus plus plus. But how does the range go, pretty much, in terms of age and in terms of gender?
Well, we are an adult program, so you have to be 18. We can't accept anybody who isn't 18. But yeah, up until whenever.
You're not too old to qualify?
Never. No such thing.
More men than women, I would have said.
Yeah, typically, but we have quite a few ladies in there.
Yeah.
One of the things that I read in one of your brochures, they were quoting one of your members. You call them members instead of clients, or. But she was saying how she's not so lonely now, because this program helped her connect to people and resources in the city, and it just was so helpful. So
And I think that's really important. I think it's a big part of what we do that gets overlooked sometimes, is just providing a social outlet for people, somewhere for folks to go. We do the employment services and the education services. We can help people find housing. Some folks come in and they don't really have that kind of need. Some folks come in and, they want to sit down and they want to talk and they want to have a cup of coffee. And that's important. I think a lot of folks that do suffer from a serious mental illness, sometimes they don't have somebody to talk to.
Right.
Like that. A lot of what we do is outreach. People will tend to isolate, and somebody may be depressed and they won't leave their apartment because they don't think they have a place to go. And they do. They can come to the clubhouse, and if we haven't seen somebody in a week or so, we'll call.
Check up on it.
Yeah, even shorter
nice.
sometimes.
That is nice.
Yeah. And they have to drive there, or there are ways in which they can be picked up.
There are. Well, we're very accessible on the bus route.
Yes, certainly.
We're right on Route 28.
Yeah, you're
so
right on
that's
28. In fact, if you went from
Harwichport.
Star Market, it'd be just up the hill and
just
behind
a
the
stone's
hedge.
throw. Yep. A lot of
On the
folks.
south side of the street.
Exactly. No, a lot of folks, most of our folks actually do come on the bus. Some drive, but
Yeah.
I'd say more than half.
And you're open to new members, right? You were telling me that earlier that you have space still for more people if they'd like to come.
We do, yep. We're always accepting more referrals. And all folks have to do is, show that there is a history of some kind of mental illness, whether that comes from a psychiatrist or a social worker, from the hospital, anything. We're not terribly fussy.
But that would be the main criteria.
That would be the main criteria, and then they would just come in or give us a phone call. As Al said, we try to be very welcoming. It has that kind of atmosphere where people walk in the door, and I've heard people say before that they feel like they're in their living room when they come into the clubhouse.
And part of your goal is to help people move out in the world more too. If they aren't working, you help them by, I understand the staff and the members work together to get through the tasks of the day, and that's part of being in the job work world.
It is
to do those kinds of tasks like the dishes, the cooking,
It is. Just about everything we do in the clubhouse, we involve our members with, just the day-to-day running. There's the stuff that's not so fun, but it still has to get done every day, like sweeping the floor and taking out the trash, cleaning the restrooms. But
they get used to working that way, back into the work world.
Yeah, certainly.
And then do you transition them out to work places that they can work in, like stores or?
We do. We work closely with several employers on the Cape. Some people will want the clubhouse's help. Will say, they want us to go do the negotiations and find them a job and find an appropriate placement, and we will certainly do that for them.
Wow, that's really.
And then some folks don't feel like they need as much help or, want as much help from us. Maybe they're coming in and they start helping out making lunch every day, and then, then they're bringing in their own recipes and cooking that, and then they say, I really like doing this. I think maybe I want to get back to work. And some of what we do with helping folks find jobs is just, not necessarily doing the placement and finding the job for them, but, writing a resume, setting up an email account for you, because everything's online now.
Yes.
So navigating those online applications and how to check Craigslist, and we'll certainly sit with somebody and take the time to do that.
So you do the resumes with them then? Oh, that must be a huge help to people who are anxious.
Yeah, absolutely.
And worried about jobs.
And the great part about it being the clubhouse is some of the folks that have been there and they've been through that, then they can take over, and they can sit down and help somebody look for a job or give them a ride to an interview.
Wow.
It's one of the few places I've ever worked where if you're doing as little as possible, then you're doing it right, because you've gotten other folks to take those leadership roles.
They've learned how, yeah.
Yeah, learning perhaps more about the computer, how to use the computer.
Absolutely. We start simple. I mean, we'll sit down and teach somebody how to, folks come in that they don't even know how to turn it on or hold the mouse.
Indeed.
Right.
Or
so
when it crashes, what to do.
Our computer class that we offer at the clubhouse, it's pretty basic. We start there, how to turn it on, and how to create a file, and how do you Google something, and how do you look for things online. Beyond that, that's where the educational services come in. Is
sure,
somebody wants to.
But you've done the basic there.
Mm-hmm,
the critical
yeah,
basic,
get
or
folks
else
started.
they couldn't go on to the next level.
Right.
Yeah. If someone were homeless, then would the clubhouse be a resource for them in any way?
Certainly, we can be.
Tell me all about that.
So we're not funded to provide housing for anybody, so we don't necessarily have, beds for folks.
Hotel.
We're a day or a hotel. That would be perfect. We are just a day program. We're there, 9 to 5, Monday through Saturday. But we work, closely with other housing agencies. We can certainly help people find out what resources are out there, get on the different waiting lists, fill out the applications for subsidized housing.
You might be interested. I just happened to read a one-page article in the latest New Yorker which, to my amazement, talked about what they're doing in Utah and a few other states. They are giving homeless people housing. I mean,
Well, doesn't that make a ton of sense?
but it struck me as very surprising because well, Massachusetts is not doing that, of course, but they find not only does that keep them from crashing as often, they're better mentally, but it saves the state money. Because when you add up all the things that homeless people cost with the attention that they need at different places in the emergency room and so on and so forth, you end up getting a bigger sum of money than it costs to give them a house or give them a place, an apartment to live in. That's theirs. Is that something you think which will come to Massachusetts eventually?
It would be wonderful. It really would.
How much of a movement is there? Because I had no idea about this before I read that article.
I mean, there's a lot of great agencies on the Cape that are providing housing services, but again, it comes down to money.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I mean, where are these apartments that you can just give people? You know?
Yeah. Well, the state has to pay for them, and then they gain financially in the future. Isn't that a strange circumstance? I wonder if any of our listeners realize that's an economical solution as well as a social solution.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I'm interested also in what I think of as the umbrella organization that is it VinFen?
VinFen.
I've looked up their website, and it's very easy to get to. You just do www.vinfen.org. And they were founded maybe 35 years or so ago by some people in Mass General and Harvard Med, psychologists, doctors, who just decided that there had to be an outreach to the community. Now, how does that organization connect to Cove Clubhouse?
They've been great. VinFen, so our funding comes through the Department of Mental Health, and then VinFen is contracted to oversee the Cove Club and 6 other clubhouses in Massachusetts.
I see.
And they're a big psych rehab provider. They've got a good presence on the Cape. And it's been great working with them. I think their mission, they have a big focus also on recovery and you know, self-determination, which falls right in line with the clubhouse and what we're trying to do. So it's been good working with them.
Yeah, and they're very conscious of the image that they have, that they don't want to stigmatize, so to speak, it by calling it the Cove Mental Rest Stop or something like that. And they chose for their name the first 3 letters of 2 streets.
I believe that's where their first program was on that,
so was
on
it
that
Vine
intersection.
and Fenway or something like that?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, just because that's important as well as everything else that you're doing. Yeah, and I think it makes clear to people who are living what they might call themselves a normal life, not to say that they won't have their own mental catastrophes and their own problems, if not themselves, though likely, in their family. Still, it makes them realize that there's a certain sensitivity that is not only required, but is helpful.
For sure. I think that's one of the problems that, you know, mental health providers are facing, is that there still is this stigma around mental health, and the system's it's poorly funded. And I think that comes a lot from people's attitudes about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people wait 90 days to see a psychiatrist. I've seen people wait in the emergency room for 3-4 days to find a bed in a psychiatric unit. I think if somebody who had cancer had that kind of treatment, it would be it would be an outrage, you know, and the public would be really upset about it. And I don't know why, just because it's mental health, that you don't see this outcry. I mean, you do, but it's not as loud.
It's a more hidden population. So when you were saying funding, how is your funding doing? And could you use like donor participation, donors to give your organization money?
Oh, always. We're running on a shoestring budget at the Cove. We're not. A couple of years ago, we were facing a complete closure. There was a
I
thought
do
that
remember
maybe
that. It looked very grim.
yeah, that maybe the Lower Cape didn't need a community mental health center.
Well, maybe it could. Maybe the government wouldn't give you the money. That's really what it, you had. Wolf and Peaks both in your corner.
We're very lucky. We got a lot of support from the local constituency here on the Cape, so that that threat wasn't looming for very long before it was made right again. But even still, I mean, we're still there. But
so you could use more money. I mean, I understand you take your to help with the socialization. You take them out fishing. You take them to museums.
We do, and we're mainly funded through the Department of Mental Health, but the budget, it doesn't cover everything that we want to do. There's always things that we need. We'd like to get more computer programs. There's not a lot of money for the arts, for the socialization stuff, as you said, going to museums and taking trips, and that stuff all costs money.
It's so healthy for them, if you can have that for them.
Oh, it makes a huge difference.
Art alone is a nonverbal way of expressing feelings. It's just such a rich area to evolve. You also have a whole art place. Do you also rent out your space sometimes to other people, or is that strictly for the members?
No, that's just for our members, but almost the entire basement. It's a big studio, has been converted into an art studio. So even if we don't have something going on, if there's not an art group being facilitated or arts and crafts, folks are always welcome to come in and just use the studio. And we have a wish list in the studio, actually, like, what do you need?
What's your wish list?
Always, we've got lots of paints, but it's always stuff to paint on. We tend to go through sketchbooks and canvases and things like that, it's a one-time thing. You can't use it over and over.
So you need more of those.
We do. And
so
those
if
are
people
things,
couldn't donate money, they could donate like sketchbooks.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be fantastic. Because those are things that sometimes we wind up using our fundraising money to cover.
Okay.
I'm interested in how you yourself got into this area, because you're
that's a good question.
You're obviously doing such wonderful work.
Oh, thank you.
And what training is involved in becoming proficient, becoming professional?
I went to school for social work. I have a degree in social work, so I always knew I sort of wanted to be in this field. I think early on in college, I really wanted to work with the homeless population. That was kind of my thing. Again, with funding, there's just not a whole lot of jobs working with the homeless population. There's not a lot of programs, so it's not one of those fields, where they're hiring tons and tons of people. So I interviewed, before Cove Club, I was at Bay Bridge Clubhouse, which is kind of like our sister program in Hyannis. And when I walked into Bay Bridge, I wasn't really sure what it was, who they were, what they do. I did a little research, read about it online, but I didn't quite get it. So part of the interview process at the clubhouses is that we want our applicants to spend some time there. You'll come in, you do the interview, we ask you a bunch of questions, but we want to see you spend a few hours. Come have lunch and talk to people and just get a feel for what the program is and what we do. And it was that part of the interview process, after spending a few hours there, where it's, this is it. Like, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And luckily, they agreed, and so
it's a two-way street,
right? Yeah. So no, and it's been great. I love the clubhouses. They're great programs.
Oh, we certainly appreciate your willingness to do this show.
Oh, I appreciate you having me.
You said this was your first time on television.
It was.
You're brave.
I'm okay.
You really are devoted to the clubhouse.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, we certainly would like for you to have more donors and support, and maybe are there organizations that you couple with where you pool your resources? Are there any others that do maybe not the exact same thing you do, but they help you community resources,
That
like
we
some of the
work closely
shops,
with a
or-
lot of nonprofits. I mean, we have a lot of overlap with folks who provide housing and other mental health providers. Also with the other clubhouses, there's 35 clubhouses in Massachusetts. And they form, you know, the coalition. It's called the Massachusetts Clubhouse Coalition. So they get together and share ideas and best practices. And
then there's clubhouses all over the world, I understand.
there are.
which
It's
was
a
surprise.
huge movement. There's, I want over 300. But yeah, every continent.
So-
There's one in Uganda. They're in Korea. I think there's one in Israel. I mean, just
Oh my gosh.
everywhere.
That would be an interesting article, actually,
Yeah.
to have about how the different clubhouses connect together. I mean, Uganda.
I
So
know.
could a member from your club talk to somebody in Israel, or?
We keep in touch. All the clubhouses put out a newsletter. So we share newsletters between a lot of the different clubhouses. And they do, I think it's every 2 years, it might be 5 years, but they'll do an international conference where people
Oh
from
my
any
goodness.
clubhouse, anywhere
Yeah.
in the world, are invited to get together.
That's neat.
It is. It's
Yeah.
very neat. Again, it's the funding, though. I mean, if, say, next year they decide they're going to have their conference in, I don't know, Finland, you know, back to the shoestring budget.
Yeah.
We're probably
Well,
not going to get to go to Finland.
We've learned a whole lot. And folks, I want to thank you for watching Cape Connect. We certainly have learned a lot about a very significant, important, and I think vital, critical aspect of social service. And if you actually want to see that the Chamber of Commerce in Harwich, if you put in social services, you'll find that Cove Clubhouse is also one of the ones that they want to talk about. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with other shows. I'm sure we'll be finding out more about the crucial things that go on in businesses, organizations, done by people, and all the possibilities that we have yet to learn about. Thank you. Jennifer, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.